Hi, Jim. Thank you for coming.
Hey, how are you?
I'm
You all right?
well. Well, it was such a lively conversation on Duvids that I just had to invite you after he kicked us off hi- for derailing whatever he wanted to talk about.
Yes. I don't know. I hope I wasn't obnoxious. I don't think I was. If I was, I apologise. What can I say? I know it's his stream. I've self-invited myself, but I don't think I've been rude or obnoxious. What do you think?
No, I think he was just tiring of us, and he wanted to read some stuff. He's reading or his
All the
thing.
time, yeah. That's his
Yeah,
stream. That's his thing. Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
How you
and
been anyway?
well, I guess I've been keeping busy with new ideas about how to solve the problem if I were in power, which he was sort of scorning. I'm just saying, you know, if we're political activists and we want to do something, whatever we do has to be based on
Hmm.
indisputable fact and sound arguments. And that's, all I'm trying to do, even if people think, oh, well, you'll never get into power, nobody will listen to you. But at least we would be clear in our minds about what the problem is.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I think we're all, whether we like it or don't, political animals. Life is politics. To say uh, I'm not interested in politics, you know what the Athenians used to call those people who did not participate in the politics of Athens. You know what their name was?
Um, I forget now, but they are
It's
condemned
called.
to
I'll
be
tell you.
chosen,
You,
be governed
no,
by their
if you
inferiors.
if see the polis state, Sparta, Athens, Corinth, and Peloponnese in general, was city states between 8 and 10, maybe 12,000 people. So everyone within the walls of each city state knew each other either by name or by state. And it's direct politics. And they had forums or meetings in the middle of of each city state discussing the politics of that state. And those people who, again, not everyone's uh, exactly the same politically inclined, did not participate, were called idiots. So the word idiot in English or in Italian or French or any other language emanates from ancient Greece. A person who is apolitical. Oh, politics, I'm not interested. They run away like 100 miles an hour the other way. So
Hmm.
idiot is the person who is non-political. I didn't want to say that to David, David, or whatever.
Hmm.
Probably you will take that as an insult, ad hominem insult, but no. And that is the etymology of the word idiot. There, you learn
Right.
something today. Oh, anyway,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Thank you for that.
getting back to what we were discussing, I think was very interesting. And politics is I think lifeblood of every society. If you don't discuss politics, you don't know what you're at, what you were, and what you're going to. So it's very
Very true.
pertinent.
It's about making moral choices, even
Mm,
though people
yeah,
might laugh at the idea of politics being moral, but it is about making moral choices
moral
and which
choices. It's
moral
about
system to
mm,
follow.
exactly. Not only that, it's about veritas. Veritas being the truth. We're all searching for the truth. Some people, in religious terms, theological terms, there are certain things of certain religions take as absolute truths, and today's society, unfortunately, it's all subjective,
Well, as
and
Pilate said,
that's the
what is
problem.
the
Mm,
truth? He asked
mm,
that question, did he not?
mm. Well,
And
in the Bible, it's best explained in Matthew 27 of the New Testament, the Gospel of
I am
Matthew.
the truth and the way, said
Mm,
Jesus.
mm, mm.
But
Yeah,
but
it's
is it true that Jesus is God? That is the question.
well, we can again. I emphasize I don't profess to be a theologian by any stretch of imagination, nor a historian. I'm amateur at both fields, and the more I read in terms of history and in terms of politics and in terms of philosophy or theology for that matter, the more I realize how ignorant and stupid I am. And I need to live for the next 300-400 years to read and regurgitate the meanings of various philosophers and various things. Again, which shows itself that we human beings are not perfect. That
Well, but
this
it's not even
and we're not
philosophy of
infallible.
words, the meaning of words. People are
Mm,
still not clear about the meaning of words. And as a
exactly.
lawyer, it's what trials and legal actions are about, the meaning of words. What does this word mean? Does it mean the same
Oh,
thing as the other side is saying?
mm.
Does it apply to my client? What will the judge think?
Could I, on that very word, meaning of words, I'll give you a good example, I think. When I was in law school, um, there is an old English case, I forget the name of the case, in criminal law, and Professor Peter Gillies was my lecturer at that time, many years ago, nearly 40 years ago now, 35 years ago at least. And the case was, it happened in 1947, just after the war in London, of all places. There were a couple of robbers, and they broke into a some sort of a factory at night, and the police came and they surrendered the factory, and they went right up to the top of the factory, which was a flat roof, chimneys and all that, and the coppers were up there. They got blocked in, and one of the guys, the two of them had a gun. One of them had a gun, and the other one didn't. And the gist of the story is, police says, "Give up! You're surrounded. You can't get out." And one of the guys called out to the other guy, "Hey, Joe, let him have it." The guy with the gun,
Oh,
and the
yes,
other guy,
yes.
and the
Shoot
other guy
him or
fired,
let, you know.
and the other guy fired and killed a copper. That's 1947. Now the
Mm,
argument in court is they were jointly and severally liable for murder of a
mhm.
police officer. But
Joint enterprise.
yeah, exactly. And the defense of the one of them, he says, when he said let him have it,
Let
means
him
let
have a
him have the
gun.
gun,
Yeah.
not let him have fire the bullets. Uh, there's an example of ambiguity or interpretation of what's written and how you read it and how you interpret it. It's
Yes.
it's very interesting. It's a bit of
And I was so happy.
etymological, yeah.
Yes. Yes. I was so happy that you turned up at Duvid stream when I was there, because it's like you're the perfect person for me to run this idea by, because you are both Catholic and a lawyer, and I suppose um,
But stop there. Lawyers used to be the learned profession, no longer so. Please, if I really
but we
hate a
try to
person,
be, don't we?
if I really hate a person, I would tell him or her, go and study law.
Yes, and become more stupid.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's anyway. I
Yes, I,
digress.
I I know it's a barrister. It used to be the convention amongst barristers to call each other each other's learned friends. But if they're
Mm,
talking
mm,
about solicitors, they just say my friend.
yeah. Well, I was both. Anyway, I'm a solicitor, but I was a barrister, and I'm a solicitor, and I'm a public notary, and all sorts of nasties. But anyway,
Mm. And
and I'm also a lecturer, by the way,
uh-huh,
former
right,
lecturer. So
right. Was any particular subject?
yes, politics, political science.
Okay, that's interesting because obviously we can sort of take up our lives and our next ones talking about it, but it boils down to, and I think Aristotle said it a long time ago about um ooh, it's gone out of my head, but really it is about whether people who commit bad things would do those things if they had properly understood the situation. And it strikes me that he was saying, if God exists and we believe in his existence and that he will punish evil and reward good, then we wouldn't be misbehaving at all. So if we have the right belief,
Mm,
then it's quite easy to find out what he wants us to do and not to do, and refrain from um, doing things that might cause him to punish us, and that's it. But since this question is not settled and may never be, we have all this trouble in the world of
mm,
of bad people thinking they're going to get away with it.
mm, mm. I agree with what you just said. Absolutely, absolutely. But as you know, in Islam, they call it the shaitan or the Satan, and it still permeates in our world. Again, I'm not being conspiratorial, I think, but I see evil um, um, being, what's the word I'm looking for, exhibited on a daily basis. Uh, with ordinary people, they've lost their moral compass, they've lost their um, bearing, relevance in this world. Again, I tend to generalize and rave
No,
on.
no, but it is true because America does not have an
No,
official religion. That's not even controversial. The most powerful superpower, the world's number one superpower, does not have an official moral system.
you see, what I take objection about the current political situation. Again, I've got is this. Um, what's happening in Gaza in particular, which is only about 40, 50 square kilometers, as I understand, and there's 2.2 million people, and nobody talks about in terms that being a the biggest concentration camp in the world since 1948 or last 40 years.
I have heard that expression. I
And
suppose
and
they
and
can.
see, this is the thing. There was also concentration camps in America, and that concentration camps where the Japanese were interned. About 150,000 American Japanese after
Yes, it wasn't
specifically
even
after.
a Nazi idea
Uh,
because the
no,
British
no.
used it to.
Well, Churchill is the godfather of concentration camps in Boer War in South Africa,
Indeed.
1899 to 2000 to 1902. The fighting between Boers and the British in South Africa, the Protestant Dutch, and what they did to them, to the men and women. They simply put them in concentration camps. So the men who were fighting the British didn't have resources in terms of uh, care, medical care, food, because they were forbidden to farm, and there were literally thousands of them starved to death. But again, it's very, very unpopular history. So if you talk about in terms of, you know, historicism, they will call you all sorts of nasty, derogatory terms, revisionist,
Yes,
racist,
yes, because it has
sexist.
become a sacred narrative. This,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
Holocaust and the
Hmm.
things that we were no longer allowed to discuss. And,
Hmm.
and um, for the British people who fought and died in two world wars, um, I suppose they could say, well, what did we get out of it? And why
Hmm.
can't we question it? And that is an important question. But
Hmm.
I'm saying that the problem is religious. We talk about the Hamas Israel war. You could see in terms of a Jewish a war between Jews and Muslims, with Christians participating, Christian Zionists who have an interest in keeping Israel as it currently is going. And we come to the question of
Mi-
Zionism.
mm,
What does it mean? And is
well,
God a Zionist?
well, Herzl had what he had in mind, as I understand, is creating some sort of, and this is pre Nazi Germany. I'm talking about 18th, 19th century, and again, it boils down to money, money, money. You know, uh, as I understand, if you read Churchill history, Churchill was uh, bought out, and his family, of course, he was a blue-blooded British aristocrat, um, educated at Harrow's
Harrow, I think.
Harrow Public School,
Hmm.
and he fell into debt and various other nefarious characters in British 19th
Yes, he
century.
was probably in the pocket of the defence
Mm,
industry, as it was so
mm,
called,
yeah,
who agitated for war.
and they're doing their bidding, and that's what's happening to today's politics. It's not the politicians; they're the mouthpiece of the American military-industrial complex, or Australian, or
Yes.
British, or whatever. They're just the puppets. Whether they're
Have you ever read
liberal,
Washington?
Labor doesn't matter. Does not matter one iota. That's my point.
I know,
Where's
but
on your point? Where's the democracy? What democracy? What are you talking about? And
yes, and so we go back to the founding fathers and what they meant. And I don't. Have you ever read Washington's farewell speech? That
no, I
America.
haven't.
You
No,
haven't. I really do recommend that you do. And as you read it, I hope you ask yourself which advice of Washington the Americans are currently following. Because way back then, he was talking about the military industrial complex. He was
mm,
saying, don't form political parties. And he was also asking, making the point that we must, with caution, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. And this
mm,
everybody glosses over. In Americans saying, "Oh, we've got a religion. We're a Christian nation." No, they're not,
mm, mm, mm.
because they separated the church from their state. So
Right.
officially, they do
Mm,
not have a religion, and that is their problem. And it
mm,
is our problem because our leaders do whatever America tells them to
mm,
do. So we have
absolutely
to
correct.
diagnose the problem, and that was what Duvet refused to let us do.
Mm, mm.
And I'm saying,
Well, mm.
what religion, are the Americans going to adopt? I don't know if you're on Twitter, but
No, I'm not.
Christian
No, I'm not.
nationalism
I
is
haven't got time for that. No,
always
I'm not.
trending. But if they did adopt Christian nationalism, it would it would be against the First Amendment, because
Mm,
when Jews and Christians took their religion seriously, there was no
that's right.
such thing as religious freedom.
But you got to also remember that the founding fathers of America were Freemasons,
Yes, I
and
know you're going to
and
say
and
that,
and
and they
and
were
and
practically
and
Jewish.
and and the lodges had an important. See, this is the hidden history. I was always interested in not the orthodox mainstream history. When I was at university, I'll tell you a bit about myself. When I was, young, my heroes were Che Guevara. I was sort of left of
You're a
Lenin.
leftist.
Left of Lenin. Lenin was a conservative in my view. I mean, Trotsky and all those guys, and my hero, grown a beard and the cap and Cuba and all that crap. And I look at that and with amusement, and I said, God, I was stupid and young and silly, uh, uh, and 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 then I sort of my as you mature, you read the other side of the official history, which I was fortunate enough to be exposed to. Not many people at university today have that opportunity, or they're simply not told to every story. As a lawyer, as you know, you get a female or a male, especially in family law or whatever, and you hear her or him say whatever the version of the events are, and but you always are surprised what the other side is saying. So um, it is interesting, like in histories, particularly modern history, the victors, as they say,
Right, say
usually
history.
right. Yeah, yeah. And I'm always say, right, I'm going one step beyond that. What's the literature on that? And and I found various authors as a young man, Evola, Spengler, and Gramsci, which is Marxist, Frankfurt School, all the other, uh, um, yeah, Voltaire, Montesquieu, and all that, Saint Simon, Marx. Of course, they're the mainstream uh, uh, sort of literature in politics and in history, modern history. But there's also I think, sort of a hidden history of influential groups. Freemasons is a classical example.
Hmm.
I mean, as a lawyer, I've been invited a couple of times to join Freemasons, and
What did you think of them?
and I said, look, I thank you you can't join. You got to be
You're not
invited.
allowed to.
Yeah,
You'll be
yeah,
excommunicated if you're
yeah. No,
Catholic.
no, it's not even that. What I said to them, I says, I'm pleased for the invite, but how can I join a club which is secret? It's got certain rituals which I'm not privy to, and it's like joining a mafia. I mean, once you're in it, you can't go. The only way you can go get out is either be killed. You can't resign, but there's also a moral issue. You know, like, how can I join?
I mean, what do people get killed if they don't go to their Masonic meetings?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about. I'm using an example of mafia. If you join mafia, you're there for life. You can't say, "Hello, mafia bosses. I'm no longer a mafia member." No, no, you know too much. You can't get out of the club.
Well, you drop out.
Oh, well, once you, well, talking about mafia now, but I'm talking about serious crime. Well, you can't simply drop out. You know too many dirty, nasty sins, I suppose. So it's not as simple as that. You can't say, "Oh, look,
You're either for us or
oh
against us.
yeah, yeah, yeah." You,
Okay,
you,
but I mean,
it is a moral question. It is a very.
yes, but have Masons done anything particularly evil, as far as you
Oh
know?
well, there is a nefarious. There's all sorts of conspiracy theories, of course, which I try to steer away from. But again, this incredible.
But people who hate Masons make up that they're
It's not.
Jewish.
It's yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they do. They talk about Masons. It's like, oh, the Jews, right?
It's not.
That,
It's
that,
not true. It's not true. I wouldn't agree.
okay, so what's your
Yeah.
objection to Masons then?
Well, because by simple virtue of them being secret, how can you join a society? Please join us,
Okay, I
but
think I know what their
but it's a
secret is.
secret thing, and
Okay,
I
I
don't know
think
what
I
the
know what
secret,
the secret is.
and it's a catch-22. You
I
don't
think
know
I know
until
what
you
their
join.
secret
I mean,
is.
I mean, it's absurd.
I think I know what their secret is, and it is this. There's the only the Abrahamic religions are allowed to join, so therefore Hindus and Buddhists or Sikhs they're not welcome. And the idea is that they will
Or
wait.
apparently they are welcome, and they talk of what's known in terms of the great creator.
Well,
Now,
they might have changed their rules, but um, I think
yeah,
the original purpose, they might have
mm,
diluted their standards and said all are welcome or some. I know they're even obliged to take on transgender women who were formerly men.
mm,
So
mm.
they've submitted to modernity. But what I'm saying must have been the original purpose of Masonry was that the Abrahamic religions were meant to join, and when it's safe for Jews and Muslims to tell Christians that they are idolaters and should stop their idolatry, um, that is a purpose, and Christians would be more likely to listen to their Jewish Muslim brethren um, in the setting than outside it.
Mm, mm,
Because I
mm.
do see Christianity as the problem. I know you are Catholic and it is the religion of your ancestors, and probably it didn't suit you to be Catholic and British at the same time because, obviously the Anglican Church is more powerful than the Catholic Church because it commands more territories. And that was basically the wars of the Reformation. The Protestants won because of the
Well, well, well,
Anglo-Saxon Empire.
well. Basically, well, you're partly right. I partly concede and agree with what you're saying. Um, you got to understand. Just hold on. All right, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, yes, I can. I
Yeah,
was waiting for you
yeah.
to say the next
All
word.
right, yeah. Well, again, I'm trying to put it in historical context. Um, I, 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 the period from about 800 or 700 to about first schism was in 1054, which is with Eastern Orthodox Church and Constantinople. There was a world, as I think I've said that before, just a bit vivid. It was blissful. See, it was a hierarchical thing. God, superior um, being, was not questioned. It is was accepted norm. You imagine a peasant in the Middle Ages. You were born in a village, you married some girl next door, and in your whole life, which was very short, about 40, maybe 50 years if you're lucky, you lived amongst your local community. They were your social security in terms of extended family. The church was your thing. Your hospital, your medicine came from the people in the church or monasteries. So, you did never in your life moved more than 15 kilometers, or say 20 miles from your village in your whole life, unless you went on to pilgrimages like under John Donne to Canterbury. There was a whole processions and various patron saints all over Europe. So it was a very, one would say, uh, they call it the Dark Ages. It was anything but the Dark Ages. It was the blissful ages, the the age of content as compared to today. It wasn't perfection because we're all born human beings. We're not meant to be content. We have to bear each cross. When I call you to become a Christian, what I'm asking of you, pick up your cross and carry it. I'm not offering you sweet life. Unlike Freemasons, you want to prosper, become nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, join the club at a price. I digress. So these sort of periods up to Reformation. Now, why is Reformation? Well, all the theologians, all the things, it's a progression in thinking. And Gutenberg's printing press was one of the revolutionary things, like a computer or internet today. The most educated people were about 3 or 4%, and they were the clergy. Majority of people were illiterate.
Yes, but the point of Christianity,
And yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
but Christianity didn't encourage independent thought. If you'd asked
But
too
this
many
is a
questions,
Protestant
you would get
thinking.
burned
See,
at the stake.
yeah,
No, it
independent.
wasn't. The Protestants also burnt heretics, but the Catholics started it.
Well, independent thought. You think about Martin Luther. Okay, was born. When was he born? He was born in 1583. 1483, died in 1543, I think. Okay. So what is he basically saying in the lowest common denominator?
No,
His
he's saying
revolution.
it's wrong for the Catholic Church to
Nah,
sell
no.
indulgences. It's
No,
corrupt.
that's mainstream. That's 93 thesis on all that bullshit on gut
But
and
as a
no,
Catholic,
no,
you'd have a different view, I
no,
suppose.
no, no. It's not about that. What's the essence of Martin Luther? He died a Catholic, by the way. He married a nun and he had kids and he died a Catholic and he repented. But anyway, that's another story for another day. What's the essence of Protestantism? Let's talk about Martin Luther, which is
Well,
important.
rejecting the authority of the Pope.
In what sense? In
Not
theological terms?
well. The English Reformation says it all. Um, Henry VIII decided to be his own pope
Yes.
because
Why?
he
And what did
wasn't
he
going
get?
to have
What did he? What?
some guy
Hey,
in Rome telling him whom he could or
what did he
couldn't
get for
marry.
that? Quid pro quo. What did he?
For
What did
what?
Henry VIII get from joining the Protestant?
Independence and the right
Nah.
to sire
He got it.
an
No,
heir.
no, no.
A
He
male
got all the
heir.
lands, all the monasteries, all the
Yes, of course he
churches,
would sack
all the
it.
wealth. Mate, if you're a politician, you're the king. What's better thing to say? I am the head of the church. Forget about the
Yeah, and
Pope.
I take everything because
It's
the
called
king
highway
owns
robbery.
everything.
And he simply acquisitions all the churches and all the land. And what did he do with that?
Well, he applied it for his own purposes. But the point
Exactly.
is,
So, see, but
okay,
getting back
you're
to
saying
Martin
that
Luther, the revolutionary thing about Martin Luther, I mean, there's many facets, many issues. I'm not going to, discuss. So many thousands of books written on that. But the essence, as I see it, and I've read reasonably, not that much, few books about Martin Luther, history and his childhood and so forth. The essence is he said to the people, you don't need the structure, political, religious structure. All you need is the Bible. Now, we talked about etymology of the words about 20 minutes ago, meanings of words. What he's saying, hey, people, now you're literate. You got Gutenberg press. You can read now. You're not controlled by the 3 or 4% elite clergy. You can
no, it's just
read
saying
in
that
English,
that
in
the
vernacular.
clergy.
And the problem is the Bible, you don't need the priests, you don't need the bishops, you don't need
Yes,
the
of course you
hierarchy.
do. It's still
And what's the
interpreted,
problem with
but
that? What is the problem with that? You said you got a direct line, hotline, hello to Jesus Christ and God.
no, of course it isn't. It's
But
just
that's
that
what he said. That's
no.
Protestantism.
Obviously, the man in the street doesn't really interpret the
No, I'm
Bible.
not talking about. We're talking on
Yeah,
a certain
but
intellectual
there will
level,
be
and
people
that's the essence of
serving the
Protestantism. So,
king
but
rather than the
the
Pope.
revolutionary thing about that is that once you say everyone reads the Bible, and that's why you got 35,000 plus Protestant churches in America, in England, all this schism, Presbyterian, and a breakup of a breakup of a breakup because they got no hierarchy. Each person does not need, you're rejecting everyone else. I know how to read, I've got the Bible. And I am interpreting, and I know the truth. Veritas is with me. I don't need anybody. F off. That's
So
the
it's
problem.
broken down. So Christianity
That's
is
the
broken.
problem. That is the
Yeah.
problem of
So
Protestantism.
yes.
So where does Protestantism, Church of England lead us today? Look at that Archbishop of that homo. What's his name? Oh, forget his name. Um,
What Justin
uh,
Welby?
Welby. Yeah, correct. Thank you. I mean, they got women, they got lesbians, they got LGBTQ, XYZ. Is that in my
Well, nobody
pride,
takes it seriously.
but
Nobody takes it
well, there's no
seriously.
church. Exactly.
Yes, yes.
No
So,
one go. No one goes to
so the
church in England.
solution, okay, the problem is obvious. So you need a new religion. What's that new religion going to be? The one that you said wasn't intellectual enough. I'm surprised at
Well,
you, Jim.
Well,
You're
all right.
you've
Islam.
read the Quran
Islam. Can
through
I
a
say something? All
lawyer's
right.
eyes,
Go
and
ahead.
you're
Sorry.
saying
Sorry.
it doesn't encourage thought. Are you really saying that? Or are you making the category error of conflating the Quran with Muslims who never read it either?
Uh, or do you want me to answer? All right. The problem I'm having with Islam is as follows. Okay. Um, Again, it is a religion which has started with Muhammad some 600 years later. They do recognize Christ as one of the prophets, many prophets, Abrahamic prophets. Okay. And now it is that the Bible, which is written in Arabic, cannot be changed at all.
It
There's no
doesn't need to
development.
be changed.
But wait, let me finish. This is the problem. When you read, and so all these radicals, there's no room. See, language, culture, history changes, evolves, born, live, die. Everything, anything in the world, any human beings, trees, you name it, animals, whatever, it continuously evolves. That is, and you cannot any book have, and this is the beauty of the Catholic Church. See, before the, when Pope talks, everybody says, "Oh, infallibility of the Pope." Do you realize? You know how many times infallibility was used with great, only about a dozen times, and with consultation, and with the church fathers, with the bishops, philosophers, lawyers before the last infallible thing which was made from the Pope was, I think, Pope Leo the 11th in the 18th century, where he proclaimed that the Virgin Mary, uh, being the Mother of God, has assumed went to heaven bodily and via soul. So this is again. I digress. We're talking now.
Yes, yes,
People.
you
Oh,
mustn't
you know,
digress because
and
people don't
it's
believe.
and I'm
They
talking
don't
about. I'm not saying
Jesus
it's right
Christ.
or wrong or
No,
correct or
but
whatever.
it's
I'm not
important.
arguing for that, but
We
the
should be
beauty.
arguing about
See
idolatry. We should be arguing about whether Christianity is idolatry.
what? What do you say it's idolatrous? You all right? You
But
tell
but
me.
but you've just been saying, Mother, Holy Mary, Mother of God, Jesus is God. What is that but idolatry? But you can't be
No,
made to
it's
know about it.
historical.
You
It's
literally do not
historical.
care.
No, I can argue it from history, which you can't. Islam cannot
Argue what from history?
from sources, from Roman sources who were totally against Jesus Christ. I'm talking about the Jews crucifying Jesus
So
Christ.
what if the Romans were for or against Jesus
No,
Christ?
there are writers, contemporary writers who wrote about the events, either contemporary or 20, 30 years within a lifetime. So
What about it? It does it.
this is
The Trinity is
and
still
critical
idolatry.
writers, not Christians, not Christians. Hey, let's not
Sorry,
Jewish
what
writers.
is your point,
But the
Jim?
point
I
is,
don't
the
understand
point is objectivity. Now I'm not talking about theology or philosophy. I'm talking about historical sources, facts
about what?
about Catholicism,
What
not
about
Christianity.
it?
Well,
It was
it
created, the Catholic Church was created by Constantine, right? Who was a
no, it wasn't.
Gentile.
No, it wasn't. No, no.
So Constantine the Great had nothing to do with the
Constantine, no.
Christianization of
Constantine
Rome.
is Constantinople. That's that's
No,
in
that's irrelevant. The
1100s.
point is that
1100s.
the Catholic Church was founded by Constantine the Great.
No,
How can you just dismiss
no,
it? Who did? Who founded the
Oh,
Catholic Church?
oh, oh God, oh Jesus, son. there were there were you heard of the 12 apostles? Have you heard of
Yes,
the
of
12
course,
apostles? All right.
these are
The
just
12 the
stories.
12
We are talking about the Nicene Creed, the Council of Nicaea, who called it and who Christianized
there's
Rome.
so many.
Why are you not even, why are you
Excuse me.
dismissing it?
All right, go ahead. All right.
No,
Just go.
I don't
We're
understand
talking
why
about
you are
history now, are we?
dismissing this important part of the history that nobody disputes. No Christian or non-Christian disputes the Council of Nicaea, or that it
Yeah.
was called by Constantine, and that it basically established the Nicene Creed. Why are you not interested in that?
Well, I'm very much in. It's part of the church, but
So
where's the
why are you
schism?
kind of shaking your
But
head and
but
I'm
but
talking about it?
but there's been hundreds, not hundreds. I beg your pardon. The church fathers. There's about 40 of them before that. See, the
Okay,
church has been
so they
for
said this,
the
they
death
told the
the death
story
of
about.
Jesus was circa 33 AD. This is where our calendar starts, so to speak. And up to about 400, the fall of the Roman Empire, when the Catholicism became the well, they call it the Christian, but that's the Western Christianity, which is Catholicism,
Yes,
became to have stake
Catholicism did
under
not
under
decline and fall of
under
Rome.
under
Edward Gibbon
Constantine.
said Rome fell because of
Constantine, Con-
Christianity.
Constantine apparently had an apparition we're talking about fourth century, and he
Yes, so
adopted
he had
in
this,
a battle, and
and
he
he
won
won the
under
war
the
because of
cross.
this
Yeah,
vision.
yeah. Okay, so but there were all these schisms before that, and all the books which will become part of the Bible. Augustine was one of the founding fathers of Catholicism. Now, one of the big things about Saint Augustine is the talking about the Blessed Trinity, three persons in one, which is a very complicated theological argument. I won't go into that. I've got many examples. I've become
Yes,
probably
but
boring,
as
but
long as you acknowledge that Jews and Muslims reject the Trinity, they say it's idolatry, and that's why I
yeah.
want to talk
But
about
what's your
idolatry,
you
and
well?
they
If you
don't
assume
care.
that, what's your argument that it is adultery?
Idolatry is a worship of anything that isn't God.
Well,
Christians themselves.
what is your evidence? What is
What
your
is your
evidence?
evidence that Jesus is God other than the
Well, there's
Trinity?
historical. I'm arguing historical. Forget about
No, it can't
being.
be historical
Of
because
course it
nobody
can, because there are
witnessed it.
people who lived there and talked about Jesus Christ being the Son of
No,
God.
you must have heard of the schism between the Athanasians and the Arians
Yes,
at the
and that's
Council of
yeah,
Nicaea. They couldn't agree
yes,
on
yes,
doctrine.
yes, and and
Right.
and, and that was ironed out, and certain books,
It
old
wasn't
ancient
ironed
books,
out
was
for
accepted and
ages.
certain rejected.
No,
Bible
no,
is just
no,
a
no, no,
collection.
no. This was what happened. Constantine was an Arian because he found Arianism easier to believe because if you were an Arian, you basically were okay with the idea that Jesus was the Son of God, and that would be in harmony with Greco-Roman culture, because there was this idea that Zeus would come down from Mount Olympus and impregnate mortal women and sire semi-divine offspring. Nobody at the time had a problem with the idea of a Zeus-like figure coming down from heaven to mate and seduce and rape mortal women. It was just part and parcel of their the Greco-Roman beliefs. So that was what Constantine went with, and Athanasius said, no, it's got to be the Trinity, and if you don't go my way, you will see that I am right. And then he died, and in the year 380, the Edict of Thessalonica was passed. Do you know what it was, Jim?
Mm, mm, mm,
Okay, so
mm,
you know that was when uh, the Trinitarianism became the established religion of Rome,
mm.
and any other kind of Christian would be persecuted
But there weren't
and
any other.
outlawed.
Well,
No, but that was after the death of Constantine's son, who
mm,
was a bad
correct.
one.
Mm,
Yes, after
mm,
Constantine II, who was also an Aryan, and he involved the Roman in some
Mm,
ruinous imperial war, and
correct.
then he
Yes.
died, and then they wanted to forget about him, and then they became Trinitarians.
Mm, mm. So
And you're talking to somebody who knows the mystery of the
it's the
Trinity.
it's the adoption. It's the adoption. So to understand, so you can argue it from a historicism, or from a theological point of view. And the reason the Trinity has been accepted, the whole idea was that basically, I'm putting it very simply in just sort of common language, is that there are Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. This is the Trinitarian idea, or the
Co-equal,
mystery.
co-eternal, and co-substantial.
Exactly. And it is very difficult to understand.
Yes, but what is the purpose of it?
So, so,
Because
so one, could I, on that very point, you've heard Saint Augustine. He was in Alexandria in Egypt, today's present day Egypt, and he was discussing in his books the city of God and all that. Have you read all of those?
the city of God is trying to explain how
Mm.
Christianity didn't result in the fall of Rome,
Mm. Well,
and he did quite
one of the passages which is very
unsuccessfully.
interesting. I can get it for you on the next occasion. I'm not going to get it now. Is as follows: Saint Augustine was walking on the beach of the Mediterranean, and he saw a little boy, sort of shuffling water into a sort of a hole which he made of sand, and he's trying to put all the ocean into his little um, sort of a little lake he was making. And St. Augustine apparently stopped, and he says, "What are you doing, little boy?" And the little boy said, that's in his words, says, "I'm trying to get all that ocean into this little um, you know place where I made a hole." And he says, "That's impossible." And apparently the answer was, it was actually an angel said, "I will do that before you will ever find the mystery of the Trinity." Because as he was walking, apparently as St. Augustine was walking on the beach, he was thinking, how can three persons exist in one person? The Blessed Trinity. And he came upon an angel, and that's what it dawned on him. It's beyond human comprehension. It boils down to faith rather than logic or philosophy or theology for that matter. So the point of the story, which sort of trembled Saint Augustine, is you're thinking too far ahead, or you're too genius, and you're trying to enter the mind of God, and it's beyond humanity. Don't think about it. That's the point or gist of the story. What I'm trying to say with that sort of passage is there are certain things in any religion, not only Catholicism, it boils down to faith. Faith is so important, but not blind faith. There is certain parameters which we can argue in terms of history, very important, in terms of uh, uh, evidence. I'm not saying, my faith is better than your faith, but you got to understand that certain things in terms of which is older. For example, Islam. I mean, how can you explain? I mean, I can pick on Islam very easy. You're the latecomers to the show. You missed the boat. You've emanated in the 5th century. Where was your Allah and God for the last 500-600 years? Medina and all that. Sorry, the show is ending. I mean, that's a very logical, very easy
No,
argument.
no. Islam is monotheism Mark III. It is the
Why?
most
Why does
advanced
God, if he's,
version
why
of
does God,
monotheism,
which has got
and
no beginning,
Christianity
there's
is
no
quite
alpha or
different.
omega, why does he have to mark 1, mark 2, mark 3? Please explain
Because
on that very
the,
point.
the uh, progressive revelation is the idea that God only reveals as much as humanity is capable of understanding.
So what is self-defeating. So what I've
How
uh,
is it self-defeating?
well, what I said to the Christians for the last 600 years before Islam came along, ignore that, please. I was wrong. This is the new revelation. That's what you're
No,
saying to
no,
me.
no, no, no. God wasn't wrong because it wasn't God who wrote the New Testament. It wasn't Jesus, let alone God, who wrote the New Testament. It has
Well,
no
exactly.
divine
No,
input. It
but it
was the
was God.
Romans
God. I'm talking about the New
culturally
Testament. It's God
appropriated
inspired.
the Old Testament and their God and beheaded the God of Israel and stuck the head of Jesus on the God of Israel. That's what they
Well,
did.
well, talking about a God of Israel, I think, and this is this problem or dilemma which I have probably is called Judeo-Christianity, which to me does not exist. As you know from your history, um,
No, Judeo-Christianity was a term that came after World War II, when when
exactly,
when
yeah,
people talked about their Judeo-Christian heritage. When before, when
which is
Christendom
a
was going,
contradiction in
people were
terms, by
talking
the way.
about
You know that,
Christian values and Christian morality.
but don't you understand that Judeo-Christian morality or belief is a contradiction in terms?
Yes, yes, because so it was a false term, but it was a term coined after World War II
Mm,
to be more inclusive of the Jews because of
mm,
what happened to them, what the Nazis did to them. So
mm,
so it was like, well, we're gonna we won the war against those horrible Nazis. We're going to be protecting the Jews now, and the British have this myth that we sacrifice our global empire to protect the Jews,
mm,
right? That's a post-war narrative, but
mm.
really it was an imperial war between rival
Mm.
European peoples.
Which had a mindset of 19th century. This is the problem, which I find today, and
Yes, so Christianity failed to protect the European Christians. That is what
exactly,
it,
yeah,
that's what it,
I fully agree, and he has not protected European Christianity since the Reformation. We can say since the 16th century, Martin Luther.
so
Exactly.
okay,
That's what
you're going to
it,
blame you're
it is
blaming
enlightenment.
Christianity on the
It is
Protestants.
enlightenment. Voltaire, Montesquieu, Saint Simon, Marx, Freud, you name it. There's the whole gamut of people who have been showing the fist against God and says humanity is humanism. Forget about
Well,
the
because I
cries.
mean, do you know
Transcendental transcendental thinking, theological thinking is tantamount to stupidity. They reduce you down to an idiot, a
sorry, what was
conservative.
this transcendental thinking you're talking about?
Belief in God, belief in a supernatural. Basically, that's what I'm trying to do. Whether it's Allah, whether it's Jesus Christ, or whatever other God you got. This is the
David and
problem.
I were talking about hypocrisy, and I've been saying that actually a lot of Jews, Christians,
You know what Martin
they're
Luther said
guilty.
about Jews? You know, he didn't like the Jews. You know what he said? If you read Martin Luther, he says, hypocrisy, thy name is Jew. And that's 500 years ago. My question to everyone is what has changed since?
Well,
Mind boggles.
it's the same with everybody. Atheists can be hypocrites. So it is a kind of a universal sin because we sort of know the rules. We sort of know that
Well, this
sometimes
is
we
with
break them.
Christianity. Catholicism is the only one. And if you want
No,
to,
but
let's,
by their fruits shall you know them. And the history of Catholicism has been failure. You've lost the
well,
wars of
it's been,
Reformation.
yes,
So
well,
admit
not all, no, no, I wouldn't put that. So you live, whether you love it or not, you are a goldfish in Christianity, whether you consciously or subconsciously. No, you live in a Western Christian country
yes,
called England.
I know.
England, just
I
listen,
live
let me
in the
stop, let me
Anglo.
finish. The architecture surrounding you is Christian.
Yes, I
It's not
know that. I
Islamic,
do not
it's not
deny that.
Oriental, It's not African, it's Christian.
You are
Now,
confusing
now, can I let me
the
finish?
past with the
I
present.
concede. I definitely concede, and absolutely concede that Catholicism, and that's and you say Christianity. Let's once you say Christianity, you're including the Eastern Orthodox Church, which is very close to
I'm talking
Catholicism.
about the
We're talking
Trinity.
about what I have more problem is
Christianity.
Protestantism. Protestantism has done liberal Protestantism has done so much uh, bad things. It has influenced and permeated the Catholic Church, especially with the Vatican II since 1965. John the 23rd and the
But he had no
Novus
choice
Ordo. And I
but to
agree with you. I mean,
modernize. After the war, he had no choice but to modernize it.
what? No. Religion is not about the world. Religion is about
No,
God. Religion
look,
is not of
look
this
at the
world.
word
It's not of
religion.
this world. That's
Where
my
does it come from? It's a Roman word. Religio.
which is
So it
belief.
comes from the word
Of
religion.
belief of what? A belief of what? Not
No,
anything and everything.
no, let me break down what religion means. It comes from the word to bind, really,
Bind what?
to bind
Elaborate.
society, to bind society.
No! Bind with God. No,
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 okay.
no, no,
You know
no.
the
Not
story.
with society. Fuck the society. Society
Religare
comes
means
and
to
goes.
bind.
People come and go.
Religare means to bind. It means no. It goes to the story of the son with his the father with his fighting sons, and then the
No, not
sticks,
society.
and then
No, that no, 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 no.
sticks
Not
and
not not
tying the string
not
around.
Christianity. Oh,
Religion
yes,
is
modern
that
Christianity, yes.
string.
Protestantism, absolutely. Not Catholicism or
No,
Eastern
no,
Orthodox.
Catholicism is has the same problem because
No,
it
yes,
didn't save
post
Rome
post
anyway.
Vatican II. It's called
No, no.
Novus Ordo,
Oh,
or I
but the
call
thing,
it
but
bogus Ordo.
Jim, Rome Christianized, and Rome fell. So why Constantine Christianized Rome. He hoped that Christianity would protect Rome from decline and fall, but it didn't. And after that, after the Rome
Say that
fell,
again. I'm sorry, I missed that. Go back. You just said.
Constantine
Mm,
adopted
mm,
Christianity
mm.
in the hope of protecting his empire, but it didn't
From
protect
what? From what? From whom?
from internal and external enemies. He wanted to unite the Roman people, but it failed to do
What was his
so.
empire? What was his empire becoming?
It
No
was
longer pagan.
disintegrating.
No, no, his empire was no longer pagan. Romans were pagan. Yes or no?
Yes, it didn't work. The Roman imperial cult of emperor worship no longer worked because
It wasn't
basically the
emperor
Romans
worship.
didn't
Rome
believe
was not
in it.
emperor
They
worship.
did
They
not
had
believe
many
in it.
gods like the Greeks. No, no, no. The
No, they
Roman
didn't believe
god.
in it. That was why the Roman warlords would fight each other to get a piece of Rome. So he thought, we can't be having all these Roman soldiers and their leaders fighting each other to become the emperor. That was the whole purpose of changing the religion. He didn't change it for fun.
Well, according to
Nobody
Constantine,
changes their religion for fun.
according to
It's got to really
Constantine, no,
hurt.
according to Constantine, he had an apparition before the battle, and he said, and apparently, allegedly, from his own mouth, historical sources say, if I win this battle, and he saw the apparition of cross, I will adopt the cross. That's his conversion. I'm talking about Constantine, the
Okay.
man, the emperor.
I tend to be a bit skeptical about it, but we
Well,
can move on to
what's your
the
proof?
Council of
Well, this is
Nicaea and
I've got.
the trouble he took to get all the Christian bishops to Nicaea and try to agree on a that.
I
using.
just lost you there for a
Okay,
second.
you're
Hello?
all right now. Yes, yes, the screen froze, but basically, they couldn't agree on the doctrine. The Arians and Athanasians were fighting each other, and then eventually the Trinity was adopted,
Well, look,
and there
could I
is a
say
reason
something?
for it.
Which religion does not fight? You've got, let's take Islam. Who you got? The
Yes, I
Sunnis and
know there
Shiite.
were
You've got,
political
what
reasons.
about the schisms within? It's quite, within a
Yes, but I'm
family.
trying to
Within a
tell you.
family. Yeah, within a family. Let's bring it down to a very simple thing: brothers and sisters, and I'm sure you have everyone's got a saga or a story to say,
Yes,
you
he
know,
said, she said, and who
she
was
said,
right
and
and who was
blah
wrong.
blah blah, yeah, and all that,
Yes, but I'm trying to bring it back to the Trinity because whatever
Or
you think of Islam, it is not as schismatic as Christianity because uh,
what is
Christianity agree about the
what the
doctrine.
problem is with Islam is as follows. I I try to keep it not philosophical, not on a sort of intellectual level. I'm trying to bring it down to the lowest common denominator. What I have the problem with Islam is as follows. It is the word Islam means submission. Fair enough. I agree with submission. Submission to the Almighty, God, Allah, whatever. I
Mhm.
agree with that proposition. What I find it difficult to accept is as follows: that Quran is not changeable, not
It
changeable.
doesn't need to be changed.
But it,
Which
that
verse
because
do you want
by
changed?
virtue of any book, I'm not picking on Quran per se. Any book written in
No, but the
Aramaic,
Quran
in
is
English,
unique. I
in
mean,
Arabic, in
it comes from
Chinese,
God.
in
It,
Chinese. Well, what
well,
about
what about Chinese? They don't claim to have
just,
some book
just
coming
listen?
from God.
What uh, what I'm having problems. It's subject to human interpretation.
Yes, so you can
Subject,
interpret it
and that's
differently.
why in Islam, like in everywhere else, you get the radicals and they get all sorts of schisms, political,
Yeah, but
social,
they can
and
still go
religious.
back
And
to
and and
the
and
book.
and and, and what I'm saying is the sources, the historical sources of Islam, and being the latest kid on the block, I've got difficulties in accepting that as being progressive, and it unifies. It unifies, and it's the religion itself which does not leave room for intellectual expansion.
Of
Do you
course, it's
understand?
being expanded
No,
every time.
no. There's no room for thinking man's. It's a religion, and I can tell you as a lawyer that a lot of people who have been on drugs and end up in drugs in England, in
Yes, they
America, in
convert. Yes, yes,
Australia,
I know
they
all about the
convert to Islam. And
conversions. But
let
let's
me
stick to
finish.
the
Let me
point
finish. And I
about
ask
the Quran.
any.
What the hell is wrong with it? Can you think of a better
Can
book?
I say
You
something?
can't think of a better
Can
book,
I
but
say
you still
something?
reject it in your
Can I
Christian
say something? No,
chauvinism.
no. Can I say? It's not chauvinism.
Yes, it
Let's
is
not.
because
Why?
you can't
Wait,
actually
so
think of a
well,
better book, but you still
well,
want to reject it.
well,
You
I
still
want
want
to
to reject
I
it.
want to
You
reject
can't think of
something.
anything better,
I
but you
want to
still want to reject
the
it.
reason I'm rejecting. I'm giving you. I think I'm giving you reasonable reasons why I reject it.
No, you haven't given me. You said, "Oh, it's anti-intellectual." No, I've
I'll tell
actually
you.
written a
Let me
book about
finish.
it,
I have not
which I know
explained
you
that.
will not read. You will not
Uh,
read.
I will.
You will not
Could
read
I?
the
The
sacred
reason.
Quran. Is all
Could
you
I
read.
say something? Let's look at the Islamic world as is.
Okay,
Right.
you're gonna go. It's all these bunch of shithole countries. That's what you're gonna say. And I'm saying yes.
Your Honour, I
They
rest my case.
no, because
I rest my case, Claire.
no,
Tell me
that's not
otherwise.
the end of the
You
story.
enlighten
That's
me,
not
tell me
the end of the
otherwise.
story
You
because
tell me otherwise. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
you're basically saying Islam must be wrong because look at
No,
these
I'm not saying
Muslims
it's
from shithole
no. I'm not
countries.
saying
We
it's
don't want
wrong.
them coming here.
No,
We hate them,
I'm not
and we wish
saying
they'd
Islam
go
is
back to their
wrong.
shithole
No,
countries.
no,
That
no,
is
no.
basically
I'm not saying It's wrong. We're talking about the progress of
Yeah, they don't follow
intellectualism,
their book.
which
I'm
Christianity
saying
has
they
shown
don't
and
follow
proven.
their book.
Islam has not
Understand me.
in the
They're
last
not
1,000 years.
following their
That's
book.
my point. I'm not saying I'm not rejecting Islam or Muslims. Don't put
I'm
words in
saying
my
that
mouth,
the reason
please.
you are
Now
using
you
to reject it is
let's talk about the
misconceived.
development of Islam in the Islamic world. And
Yes,
it's been
and
around.
I'm
How long it's
saying
been around?
they
For
don't
from
follow their book,
six
and
from
you are
600
not
AD
taking
to
my
present.
point.
600, that's
Which
1400 years, plenty of time for Islam to show itself, um, beside the sword and killing and jihad, in intellectual terms, what he has achieved and dominated. Let me
well,
tell me.
yes, I'm very happy to point out to you that the Iranians got their country back with Islam. There you go.
Iran, what's this got to do with the price of tea in China? Iranians got the
What are we
country back.
talking about? China now?
Well, no, it's just the saying. It's just the saying.
What?
Well, you're going on a tangent. You just
No, I'm
Iranians got
not.
the back of
You
China.
asked me. You asked
What
me.
has Islam in in has contributed, not to Western, to the world civilization in last 1400 years? It's been around. Unlike Chinese history.
So you think
Well, you tell me. I mean,
okay?
maybe I don't know. Or
Uh,
maybe I'm an
well,
ignoramus. Maybe I
okay, so
am. I'm not denying. I'm not
okay. I
the
think
source
what you're saying. I think what you're
of
saying
all
is China is
knowledge
a more
by any
powerful
stretch.
country. You're saying China is a more powerful country than
No, I didn't.
Iran.
Oh fuck! I didn't say that. We're
Okay,
talking about what I'm
what's China got to
saying.
do with it?
Listen to my words, and this is the problem. Listen to my phrases and my words. What I'm trying to say. I'm not. Anybody can fight and put shit on anybody ad hominem or their religion or
Just get
culture
to
or
please get
nation.
to
I'm
your
not doing that.
point.
I am not doing that. All I'm saying. The question has become, and the issue. Let's not deviate from the question. All I'm saying, what has Christianity in 2,000 years given to this world, whether for good or bad? And there's been a lot of bad since the
The
Reformation. That's
story
my
is not
thesis.
over.
But what has,
Look,
well,
it,
exactly.
it's not over.
What
So
has
you're just saying, look,
Islamic countries given to the world? In terms of technology, in terms of knowledge, in terms of science, in terms of
well, most of the
history, in
engineers seem
terms of,
to be
you
Muslim.
pick your
And
subject. I don't know. Very
yeah, you
minimal,
keep
I'd say.
interrupting, though. You keep interrupting, Jim, when I'm talking.
Go on. Yeah, I'll shut up.
So,
Go ahead.
so I will repeat your question. You're saying what has Islam contributed to the world? I would say the rule of law. I would say when the British were doing
Certainly, yeah.
things correctly, they were being unconsciously Islamic. You will no doubt reject that, but I'm saying the next thing I'm going to say is that
Yeah.
the Iranians got their country back through Islam by rejecting democracy and monarchy, and a constitutional republic would work best with Quranic principles. And I'm also going to be saying that the American Revolution was based on an Islamic principle. The First Amendment is based on chapter 2, verse 256 of the Quran, and it says there is no compulsion in belief. Truth stands clear from error, and there is no such thing in Judaism or Christianity. Jews and Christians, when they were taking their religion seriously, did not believe in freedom of belief. But it's there in the Quran. And I guess you're going to say, oh, but look at the Muslims, they don't appear to believe in freedom of belief. And I would say, well, look at Iran. Iran allows Christians and Jews to live there. That there's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah. No, I'm
so.
fully aware of that. Yes.
All
I,
right. So I'm saying, well, the it's actually very unusual to have an independent foreign policy in this world because everybody else submits to America, including
Mm,
Australia, including Britain,
mm.
including all the NATO countries you can think of. We submit to America. America hasn't got a religion, therefore, it doesn't submit to God. Congress makes up the rules as it goes along. It makes
Absolutely
marriage
correct.
gay,
I
children
agree 100%.
transgender, and if you're a
100%.
Jew in America, you can't say, oh, the Torah says we have to execute sodomites. And if you're a Muslim, because Congress will say we're not Jews. And if you're Muslim and say the Quran forbids fornication and gambling and all kinds of things, then Congress will say we're not Muslim. So this makes Congress completely unaccountable. And as a lawyer, you would know about ultra vires
Mm.
exceeding
Yeah,
the
it's
powers.
law. Mm.
And I'm saying if America is indeed one nation under God and trusts in God, then it had better follow the laws of God in whichever book they want. Do they want to follow the Old Testament rules, or do they in the Torah, or do they want to follow the other book that doesn't have 36 capital offenses? And
Have you read Franklin's Bible? Have you seen what he censored the Bible that the founding fathers?
uh,
Franklin,
I think
do
you
you
mean the
understand?
Jefferson Bible. I think,
Jefferson, yeah, the Jefferson. Sorry, yeah,
yeah,
Jefferson
I
Bible.
mean, the
You really,
Jefferson Bible is
it
basically the
brings
red
us
letter
back to the
Bible.
founding fathers. Oh, great majority were Freemasons. Again, it sounds like conspiratorial and all that, but they
No,
were
no, no, no. It's very
revolutionary.
simple. If you
They
work it
followed.
out as a
They
lawyer, you would be able to
mm,
understand what Jefferson was
mm,
doing.
mm.
Jefferson was a lawyer, and
Extrapolating. Yeah,
no,
go
no,
on.
he left out everything
Mm,
Paul said because Paul never even met Jesus.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Mm,
so
mm,
Jesus was dead by the time Paul decided to be Christian, and the bits that Jefferson left in the books of Matthew, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John were the reported speech of Jesus.
mm,
So it's whatever Jesus said, and no miracles were included in the Jefferson Bible. So
mm.
so basically, the New Testament was hearsay evidence by, well, witnesses that we don't really know about. We don't know who Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John were. We don't really know anything about them. Were their accounts contemporaneous? We don't know. Well, when was the New Testament compiled? We don't know. It was compiled
Yes, we do.
after the
Yes, we do.
Council of Nicaea, I'm sure.
No, 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 no. No. Oh, I'm not going to go into that. But let's talk. We're talking about America. America, yeah,
But
America.
America has no religion, and therefore,
Yes, I agree. Yes,
yeah, and
yeah.
therefore,
We've made,
Congress has the
but
power
but but
of
but
an
America,
absolute
but
monarch over
America,
the American people.
America is a
Congress is
child
the monarch
of a
of
French
the American
Revolution.
people.
What was
Please
French
listen to
Revolution
me.
about?
Please listen. It's very important for you to understand and Americans to understand that Congress has the powers of an absolute monarch over the American people because it can make up the rules as it
Hmm,
goes along, right? Because we in Britain, and you're British really, the
hmm,
principle of parliamentary sovereignty or parliamentary supremacy is the idea that Parliament can pass and repeal any law. Which means it can make up the rules as it goes along. It
exactly.
has
Yeah. Yes.
the prerogative of a woman to change her mind, and well, it is an immoral woman. I'm afraid this is, well, this is the culture and the being that rules over us. The British have not got a constitution. It's the biggest fraud of oh, I don't know
Hmm.
when British law students are told they have this wonderful, magic, invisible, unwritten constitution. They haven't got a constitution at all.
I I would tend to agree with you. Absolutely correct.
And
Absolutely
so
correct
we
what you
need
just said.
a book of rules to at least hold our ruling classes accountable and say, look, you can't do that. You can't make marriage gay.
Hmm.
You can't you can't
100,
legalize adultery. You can't,
150%.
what?
What you just said, I fully agree. Not 100%, but
Hallelujah
150%.
and alhamdulillah.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I'm the most highly critical person of my church under Pope Francis. Is you're looking at him? It's yours truly.
He
What
submits to the liberal
what?
order.
Well,
But
it's
then
called money. It's called money, and this is. I'm sorry. What
look,
Pope
you can
Francis is
imagine
doing, the radical Jesuit, what he's doing. I'm sorry to say that. I feel ashamed. And that's why I'm a pre-Vatican II, not pre-1965 traditional Latin Mass, Latin liturgy, Latin theology. And he's off this world. The problem since 1965 to date with Novus Ordo, I call it bogus Ordo, new order,
mhm.
he bought into this world. The problem is this world, and this world is secular world. The almighty dollar or British pounds or euro is ruling. And money talks, bullshit walks. That's putting it in essential, very understandable terms without philosophizing. And
But,
that is
but
what's
but I
going
think
on today. And we're on the same page in that regard. Talking about America, let's extrapolate for a second and look at Gaza. I'm not a Muslim or an Islamist or anything like that. What's happening in Gaza? Is it a massacre or a genocide? As we speak, 40,000 plus innocent men, women, and children have been murdered by American nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more weapons and bombs, and nothing to see here. Look the other way, boys and girls. Oh, and nobody's talking about it.
yes, and
Nobody's talking about it. Now they're human
the
beings.
board of the subject, right? The
You
board of
know,
it.
and this is what I'm trying to prove. Oh, not prove. It's the wrong word, choice of words, I suppose. To David, I say, David, you as a person, how can you reconcile your heritage, your Jewishness, your American
Well, he
Jewishness?
says he's an anti-Zionist, to be fair.
Well, he is, yes, 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 and that's what I like him. I was occasionally watch his stream, but he goes on a very sort of technical, um, not social science. He avoids he says he avoids politics, but he can't avoid politics. But anyway, I'm not going to go there.
Religion is politics.
I don't know.
I
I
don't see how you can make the distinction. I mean, the
mm,
Lateran Treaty, how can you,
mm,
separate the religion from the politics of the day?
exactly. That's my. It is very hard. It is very hard. This is
Well,
what I'm.
Islam is not hypocritical in
I'm not
that
I'm not
because
saying,
it
see
is the
see
same
what you're
thing.
talking about. Islam is politics, and it's the society, and that was what Dark Ages up to Protestant Reformation Martin Luther was. It's called in disparaging term the Dark Ages. It wasn't anything but dark. It was blissful, peaceful ages where the religion, Catholic religion of Europe, lasted from Constantinople right up to Reformation. Okay, and and the Battle of Lepanto, 1543. Look, Google it. Okay, I'm not going to go into the now discourse of
Yeah, it was a Muslim.
Andalusia and all that. I'm not going to go there at this stage. I'm
It was a
too
naval
tired.
battle.
No,
Yes.
exactly. Yes, exactly. And that saved Europe. So the Islamic forces through Spain, Andalusia, right up to France, Lyon, and they were
Yes,
rejected, and they came all the way through the Turkish Ottomans. That's where you got Islamists in Bosnia and in Albania. The only
Jim, what
but that's history. What I'm getting at, we had that unity that short span of history which should not be forgotten, which
Yes,
you're
it
alluding
only
to,
worked for a
which
short
you're
period
alluding
of
to,
time.
which you're alluding to, and it's and the development in various, not only philosophy, in technology, in astronomy. The first astronomers were the fucking Jesuits.
What about
The first
Galileo?
universities, the first university in the 9th century were the
Yeah,
Catholic universities. For crying out loud.
I have
The
heard
translators
that
of
it was the
ancient Greek,
Muslims who
Aramaic,
created
and all that
the
was,
university.
including the Islamic things, were the monks, scribes. There wasn't any printing press. There wasn't any photocopiers. Learn your histories, boys and girls. It's basic
I
101.
am not. I'm not dismissing the scientific and cultural achievements of
Well, that's what this
Christianity,
world is
but
about.
it's
Of
a
course,
different. But we're talking about the rule system. You see, the culture. The culture is
let's go back to America. I agree with what's America. What problem is America? It's a secular society, and America is, you
it
know,
needs to be a theocracy.
well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so does Europe. Exactly.
Yes,
One,
yes,
what did Friedrich Nietzsche say? Man will kill God, and in its place, he will create human God, which is the cardinal sin. What's our human God last 2 years? COVID. If you don't believe in COVID, if you don't get jabbed, you're a you're a you're a blah, non-person. Should be killed.
yes,
Give him a sack. If you don't believe in climate change, what are you? Oh God, you don't believe in climate change? You human hater. That's the God of the secular. Can't you
yes,
see that?
and I think we can all
The God of
agree.
they create their own gods. The human beings desire to believe, but when you substitute the spiritual transcendental God with a human God, where you believe in the system, the temporal God, this is the biggest mistake the humanity, the civilization of the world has done.
Jim,
And
you says you say you've read the Quran.
yes.
What have you? You have. So
Oh, well, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not a scholar.
no, you don't have to be a scholar. But was there anything you read in it that you found particularly objectionable?
No, a lot of things I agree with it, and it's got so much with the old. I mean, we're talking about culture now. I mean, homosexuality, LGBTQ, marriage. Well, that's a bit of difference between the Christian and Islamic, but I'm talking about uh, devotion to spiritual. It's all gone. I agree, especially Western Europe. I mean, Germany, England. My son's a doctor in London. I mean, what he tells me about. Anyway, I won't go there.
Yes, but you do see that these moral systems have
Morality, yeah,
narratives,
yeah.
and
Mm,
and they're intended to make us behave in a certain way. So if you believe in the government is right, then you will do what the government wants you to do, right?
mm,
And the whole idea. I mean, some atheists say that religion was created by governments to give the little people something to believe
yeah,
in and make them
mm,
easier to control because of
mm.
the particular narratives
I
that
heard
they're
that
supposed to
argument.
believe.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So the belief in the Abrahamic God means that we have to be um, mindful of what our government is telling us to believe. Yes, because if you're Muslim, it's like and you have a bad, corrupt Muslim government. Maybe you live under the Ottoman Empire or something when it's declining and they're breaking all the rules. But you as a Muslim can read the book and you can say, oh, but it doesn't say what you corrupt Muslim government is telling me to do. This stupid law that you've just passed, it's against Quranic principles. So I'm saying the Quran is useful as a guide for the government as well as for the people it governs so that they know their rights. It encourages literacy and questioning, and a lot of how Muslims are being taught about their religion is frankly stupid and bad. And actually, you can understand why certain Islamic Muslim kingdoms in the Gulf actually don't want their Muslim subjects to know too much, because in Saudi Arabia you keep hearing of Islamic scholars being thrown into the prison for
Mm,
giving a
mm,
wrong
I heard about that.
interpretation
Yeah.
that offends the king, the absolute monarch.
Mm, mm,
And
yeah.
as Nietzsche
Well,
said,
unfortunately, just again, I can't help myself but to bring into politics. I mean, Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about Egypt. I'm talking about that Abdullah in Jordan. Um, they've puppets of America. They've brought in, to subdue, to shut up, and to turn their backs on their fellow uh, Muslims, Palestinians, which I feel sorry for. I'm sorry. I just feel those people, those children being killed. In it is
yes,
mind-boggling. I can't fathom. 2024. Uh, Maybe I'm being very naive, very stupid, very, I don't know what it is, but I can't help myself to speak out, and I'm speaking out openly, as a person,
yes,
as a
thank you.
father,
Because
as a
well,
grandfather of two
mm,
kids. I've got four kids, and all educated, and all of that. But I,
yes,
I'm
to have
lost for
the lives of so
words.
many people destroyed and
Just lost
ended.
for bloody
Mm,
words, and I see, um, it's okay now. Mass media and so forth are portraying. And I mean, I'm sure it's in England also, in Great Britain. Now don't look here, and it's
We don't care until we are
and
told to care,
yeah.
like the media. I mean, basically, a lot of
I'm
people
fully aware of the
shield.
plight of poor Palestinians. Again, I've got no dog in that fight, but I just, as a human being, as a Catholic, the value of humanity, human being, is paramount to me. And a lot of people will laugh at that. Well, fair enough. Go and laugh. That's all I got to say. It's tragedy. 2024. They're talking about Holocaust. Come on, mate.
You don't want it
And
done
they're,
in your name.
and they're playing this
Nobody
this
does.
Holocaust card for 80 fucking years. Jig is
Yes,
up. The world has woken up. 200 countries in the world, and they've seen what's going on. You can't get away with it. And their moral high ground has been lost, unfortunately. And that's what I've been trying to say to David. Please
I think
explain.
he is aware of
Not,
that
I'm
too.
not putting him on a
It's sad
spot
for
as a
Jews.
Jew or
You
half a
see,
Jew, but I'm trying to say, please, how do you explain Gaza as we speak?
well, to be
I
fair
mean,
to Vujovic, he has distanced himself to it, but
I
from it.
don't want
But
to talk politics. Well, that's one way out, I suppose. I'm the guest on his podcast, and so are you, and we got kicked off politely, I might say.
well, we're better off here, so we can at least have a proper conversation without
Mm.
boring everybody. But really, I'm trying to say, Jim, that if you have a book of rules to follow, if you have an official handbook, um, you can trace your problem to, well, even if you break the rules. Jim, if you break the rules, you can say, "Well, the bad stuff has happened to you because you broke the rules," and
Yeah,
and
well,
and you
I
know
do.
which rule you
Mm,
broke,
mm,
and then you can just go back on it and work out where you went wrong, and then not do it again,
mm.
right? So that is how you kind of do it, right? Because you have rules, you're in a better position to determine causation, right? You can say, because I did this wrong thing, bad stuff happened to me, so I better not do it again. And it might help if I said sorry. And that is why I keep going on about the book of rules that is the Quran, and that I keep hoping as a lawyer you can understand its utility.
See, one thing which I've noted, and it's not, I don't do much criminal law, but I've noted that a lot of people who've been on drugs, I mean, ex-Christians, Aussies, um, who've been in how will I put it? Um, broken families, uh, a lower echelon of the society. I'm not trying to be disparaging against them. They go to jail and they convert to Islam. Fair enough. That's your prerogative. That's your choice. It's called free choice. Then I ask the question why, and it gives them a form of semblance, a form of order. Pray 5 days, 5 times a day, obedience. And that's what they've been missing in their life. And this is what Catholicism was, as I said, in that golden age, which they call dark ages, and I call it the very bright and enlightened age, from about 4th, 5th century, after for the last despotic Roman emperor, I suppose, before Constantine was Diocletian. And that's about 420. He was the one, the last gasp of the good old Roman pagan empire. But since about 4th to about 15th century, the rise of Henry and good old Martin was a beautiful age in Europe. I'm not talking about the world. I'm
Yes,
talking about
I can see
stability.
you're talking about the golden age of
Hmm.
Christianity.
But they call it the Dark Ages. See the irony? See
Yes, because
the
of the end of
self-hate,
Roman
the
rule.
self-hate of the white so-called in academics. And that's another story for another day, which I've yeah, it's modern academics now. These new modern academics, I would not send my dog or my cat to a university because it's an institution of indoctrination and not an
Indeed.
institution of education in a Socratic method.
Yes, they're
Dialogue,
very
dialogue,
unreasonable.
dialogue, debate, and discussion in a civil way has gone out the window. It's ideology which prevails, and it's not, to me, that's not education.
Yes, and at the end of the day, it is the religious people who seem to talk more sense
Hmm.
than the university people, because the religious people say, "Well, our religion tells us not to be gay and transgender, and
But can you
etc.
see?
etc."
Can you see? Although we're in, you're a Muslim and I'm a Catholic. See, we are sort of kicked out of the public square, so we have got no forum to talk simple, which was taken as common sense. What I believe, for example, this month, as you probably are aware, it's called Gay Pride
Yes, Gay Pride
Month.
Month.
Now,
Yes,
stop there. Stop there. Talking uh, about pride. One of the seven deadly sins is pride.
yes,
Pride.
yes.
I am the smartest. I'm this. I'm that. Blah blah blah. That is a deadly sin, and they call it Pride Month. I don't know.
Yes, so it's a kind of festival of liberal values,
But
and
it does not stop there. See what follows there after Pride. You got to. I mean, um, for the very first time, we're talking about today being the King's. We celebrate the Queen's birthday, and the Queen is no longer around, so it's King Charles III. That guy, God for. Anyway, I won't go there. Uh, uh, one of the the recipients of the various awards is about 680, 700 Australians each year, in medicine, in law, in all sorts of areas. They get a award or whatever. I don't know what they call it, to be honest with you. And one of them is now permeated into our language, being inclusive and diverse in LGBTQ promotion. I heard that on ABC radio here in Sydney, Australia. Now, this is the first step. This is, as a lawyer, I'm thinking ahead. Now it's acceptance. It becomes part of the mainstream
it
language.
becomes the culture.
And,
It
and
becomes the
once it
culture.
becomes there, then it becomes the
The
law.
majority,
The law follows. You gotta believe in that. See, this is the
because
problem.
these are the
Ex-
values.
and
See,
law reflects and this is what I'm afraid of, where you cannot say no. To me, pride or
which is why it is
sodomy
essential.
I'm sorry, you're a homosexual sodomite. That I'm talking from a religious Catholic perspective is a deadly sin.
Yes, lust is
And
a
as,
deadly sin.
and I'm not going to renege in front of anyone. That's my religious belief. If you say I can't believe that, I'm sorry. You're
Yes,
denying my rights.
and all these beliefs that religions instill, well, the five world religions, that's not that many. They were all designed to keep us marrying and having legitimate children and being good parents and staying together for the sake of the children. That
Mm.
is really the purpose of religion. To,
Well,
it's a breeding program of patriarchy
mm,
because it's at least eugenic. But what we have now is a dysgenic
mm.
matriarchy, saying you can
Uh,
breed with whoever, it doesn't matter. And the next generation just gets stupider and more corrupt
well,
and,
low
and more
IQ,
disabled.
exactly. I
And
know. I'm fully aware of that. I mean, chipping away at our cultural institution, it all starts with Antonio Gramsci, as you probably are aware.
no, but in a way, it's simple because it's all about whether people respect the institution of marriage. And it's like
Well,
there's nothing now that could make the white man respect marriage again, unless there is a change of law brought about by the admission that their current political orthodoxy has been wrong and misconceived, fundamentally misconceived. And it's only been 250 years of that, which is the liberal order,
mm,
liberalism coming from the French Revolution.
there's an American writer. He just died not that long ago. I think about 10 years ago. What's his name?
Gore
Um,
Vidal, maybe.
no, 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 no. He's um, I've got his books here somewhere. I'll tell you next time. I can't think of them at the moment. Um, uh, what's his name? Anyway, he's
What
talking
did he
about
say?
corporatism. He was part of the paleo conservative with
Russell Kirk?
no, not Russell. I've got a good friend. He just did his finished his PhD in on Russell Kirk. PhD. He actually spoke. You mentioned Russell Kirk. He spoke to in America. Part of his PhD thesis. He's been doing it for about 7 years. He's now a doctor. Uh, good family friend. On Russell Group. No, his name is. I'm talking about 1950s and 60s. Oh God. Uh, anyway, come to me later on.
Yeah, can you
He
remember what he
talks about
said?
corporatism and corporate America taking over the politics, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of Amazon, in terms of all these corporations sponsoring LGBTQ, the controversy about Bud Light,
Yes, I'm so glad you
and
mentioned that
it's
because corporate America is a very old term. It's decades old. In
mm,
fact, I actually remember reading a Batman comic about Batman complaining about corporate America. Maybe I imagined it, but
mm,
this term, you know, because obviously corporate America would control the government because every time the Americans have an election, corporate America is expected to fund the campaigns of the
mm.
parties. Right, so
But
when they
then
win,
mm, mm,
he who pays the piper calls the tune. So,
exactly.
so every time the Americans have an election, they surrender more of their rights to the corporations, and and
Absolutely
and
correct.
then. And,
Exactly.
and when I say give up
Yes.
with this voting nonsense, they go, "No, we need to vote."
Thinking about just current American politics, Joe Biden and Trump, there's no difference. I don't think there's any difference, or much difference at all. It's the
I
fight
mean,
within
Trump
the.
has just decided to represent, you know, the populares, this idea
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Rome,
yeah.
and basically,
But there's
you know,
no different. Essentially, I don't think there's any
certainly on
difference.
foreign
I,
policy.
I look. I look at. I look at any whether it's you're facing an election in Britain at the moment. Sunak has in France also Macron apparently in the last 24 hours has called general election and he's
Yeah, but the
afraid of the.
media is completely rigged anyway.
Yeah,
If you read
it's an
between the
arm.
lines,
It's an arm.
we're being prepared for a Starmer landslide.
Yeah, yeah. What I'm trying to say is, this is this mirage which they put. He- Um, the club. I'm talking now the political club, like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Obama and Trump. They're part of the same golf club. And you and I ain't members of it. We'll never be members of that club. And it's an internal family fight. And it's a genuine fight between them for power.
Yeah, it's like
Genuine
the
fight.
War of the
And it can even
Roses.
lead to assassination. That's how serious they are. All right. But it's a family fight. So they're appealing to the popular, vote for Republic or vote for this, but there's no change substantially. There's no difference between Liberal and Labor. The only true person in England was Corbyn. He spoke the truth too much, and in politics
And
you
now
can't
he's
speak the
called an
truth.
anti-Semite.
Oh, well, yes, I know that. I'm fully aware of that.
You know, all these sort of
Mm,
leftists who were all,
mm,
and
mm.
there's actually a publication called Jewish Voice for Labour, and you know, they're the ones saying, no, Corbyn's not an anti-Semite, you know, Livingston's all right, we don't, and it's like, forget that, because, you know, Labour, sorry, Jewish Voices for Labour, nobody's heard of, but you know, everybody's heard of The Guardian and The Telegraph, and if they want to call Corbyn an anti-Semite, they're the ones who get heard.
Mm, mm. This is
So,
this. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, you know, the CIA controls Western media,
Mm,
and manages
mm.
our, you know, emotions, our moods, and our expectations. And you know, the recent um, Indian election, it's like Modi can't even bloody
Modi just
speak
yeah.
English. Why did he win the third time? And he treats the Indians like shit anyway.
I know.
You know, I think, you know, it's because the media is completely controlled. Not just
Yeah.
Western media, but you know, media in the non-Western parts
Mm.
of the world that practice democracy. So I think
In the
that has
name of
got to go.
democracy, let's not go there. Uh, uh,
Well,
anyway,
it didn't work for the Republic. It didn't work for Republican Rome because eventually they got rid of the Republican Rome and became the you know the people who worshipped their dead emperors. So we, you know, it's a book of rules. Jim, it's a book of rules. And if you
mm,
say, oh, look at the Muslims, they don't follow it, well, all right. The problem to not following the book of rules is to follow it next
mm,
time. You have a recipe book, you think you know better, you don't read it when you cook your dish, and when it's cooked, everybody says it's rubbish. Next time you cook that dish, follow the recipe. It's that
mm,
simple. Why does everybody complicate things so
exactly.
much?
I tend to concur with you on that point.
Thank you, Jim. Is it a good
Okay,
time?
I think it's 6 o'clock here in Sydney. What time is it in London?
Well, actually, it's only 9, so
There you are. God, you've been up all night.
yes, yes,
Oh,
because I wanted to. I know Duvet, you know, streams for about sort of 5 or 6 or sometimes 7 hours, and I thought, you know, if I stay awake or get up in time, I'll be able to catch him and tell him what I think about, you know, Jews and Israel, and happy day I met you, and here we are.
yeah, I don't want to be controversial or obnoxious to anyone, but unfortunately, as I see it, there's not much room for civil dialogue any longer, which I think it's a tragedy for our.
Well, we can still have it
Uh,
amongst ourselves.
yeah, exactly. but a lot of people simply, the young generation simply don't. They they take it as a confrontational thing. If you question them, you say, "Oh God, you're a," and they use various buzzwords: a bigot, a
Well,
racist, a
that is the thing.
sexist, a
Yes,
fascist. All these buzzwords that mean anything. If you are, if you
exactly,
ask them,
and they
"Well, what do
hear
you
it
mean
from the
by that?" They
media.
can't explain it. They
But
cannot explain it. In other words,
yes,
they're shutting down debate. They simply
yes, and they
say,
get angry
"Shut
with
up.
you,
I
or they
can't
leave the
debate with
room.
you." Hmm.
But
Yeah.
that is because white people don't have a religion. Because if they did have a religion, parents would be able to tell their children, respect your elders. And in our time, even though we didn't agree with our
Yeah.
elders, we at least shut up and we didn't call them names. But
Yeah.
obviously,
Well,
the,
this is what I
you
noticed with
don't have a
David at the
religion,
end.
and it's a huge problem. And I wish you would understand that. Because
This
if
is
you
what I
don't have a
noticed.
religion, the generations can't talk. Fathers
Mm.
and sons can't talk to each
Oh,
other, and you won't be able to fight the enemy if fathers and sons can't talk.
it's well, I won't go there. The problems people have, and I see. I won't go that avenue. But what I've noted with David when we started talking, I suppose it's his channel. We sort of I overstepped, both of us overstepped the mark. He says this is not about politics, but he does talk about Jewishness and politics. And this is I didn't want to say anything, but I mean, come
I
on,
think he was just tired of us, and he wanted to kind of read
yeah.
a bit to calm himself down because we were being
It's
too
fair enough. Fair enough.
controversial. But I think it's better
I think
here.
it's
So
healthy.
that was the silver lining in being kicked out by Duvid.
Well, politely, I appreciate that. It wasn't a violent, you know, a bouncer way of kicking out. But anyway, look, I have to go. It's 3 minutes past 6 here in Sydney. Look, it was nice talking to you, and you got my things. I'd like to talk further, and
Well, what's a
let's.
good time for you? Is that Sunday?
Well,
Sunday's a
I'm
good
very
time?
busy. Look, this is a long weekend. It's Monday evening here in Sydney, as I said. I've got various court commitments. I do go to court a lot. I go to conferences with barristers and clients, and I do go to jail occasionally. I don't do much criminal
You
law.
go
My
to
wife
jail.
does that. I do
Yes.
sort of commercial and family law and all that, and contracts and conveyancing, blah blah blah. But
Hmm.
um, I'm very busy. I'm sort of semi-retired,
Hmm.
but I'm working like a dog. Oh, no, not me. All that's what I said earlier.
Hmm.
If you want to curse someone, telling him or her to study law, and I'm supposed to be semi-retired, phasing out of the profession, and I work on average about 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. There you are, 65, 70 hours a week.
Well,
So
it's
I'm
good to
very
be in
busy.
demand.
Well, I reject about 30%. 10 clients, 30, 3 out of 10 say go away, see someone else. And I can afford that. I'm
Hmm.
not on social media, just do my thing. But you
Hmm.
got to be honest with people and tell them. A lot of lawyers are unfortunately don't understand the profession, as Shakespeare said.
Hmm.
Um, Kill all the lawyers and start the society ab initio from the beginning. But what do I sell? What do lawyers sell is something intangible. What we sell is our brains, 7 years,
Yes.
6 or 7 years of law and practice, our lingo, and our time. And that's
Yes.
intangible. You call
Yes.
a plumber, electrician, bricklayer, they do the wall, they concrete your house or whatever, and you pay
Yes.
it. You can physically see that. But lawyers, unfortunately or fortunately, um, de- devil in intellectual pursuits, which a lot of people, ordinary people, don't appreciate or can't see. It's hard to explain to them.
Yes, and when danger is averted, they don't appreciate us either.
Mm,
We stopped you from making this terrible mistake that would have caused so much injustice for generation after
mm.
generation, and they can't see it. Yes, but
Anyway,
that's why doctors are like
well,
lawyers. You don't
doctors are
want to
good.
see a doctor or a dentist or but
Yeah, it's
some
interesting. You
others.
know, if you look at the shows all about doctors, it's all about surgeons, never about, I don't know, um,
Dietitians,
dietitian or something. How can you make a serious
psychiatrists.
or anything like that? It's always, oh, he or she saved a life and it was a surgery. What about law? It's always about crime. He's wrongly convicted and he's going to go to, electric chair. And this amazing lawyer pops up and he saves and he serves the justice and all that. And he, oh, bravo, what a, and everybody thinks in terms of criminal law. Part of the law, criminal law makes about 3 or 4% there's
Hmm.
intellectual property, there's constitutional law, there's equity and trust, there's family law, there's family provisions, there's international law, public international law, intellectual property, there is trademark law, there's about 300, like medicine, like any profession. People don't realize how it's very specific and and and
Hmm.
and hard to articulate to a lot of people what I do or what lawyers do or any
Well,
profession.
they think lawyers just cause trouble.
Well, a lot of them do, unfortunately.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they do that, and so there's a lot of things um, to be said about Shakespeare. Kill all the lawyers. I mean, again, I'm treading on very very
Well,
dangerous
there
ground.
shouldn't be too many of them. I think in Singapore they used to be very sensible. Like, we have too many lawyers. You can't. You can go to university, but we need more engineers. So you have to study engineering,
Hmm.
even though you wanted to be a lawyer, because we're not having any more of them.
Well, well, I
They would do
hmm.
things like that.
Well, I started off in medicine, and I was there for about a year. Then I got out of medicine. I said, "Oh shit, uh, it's not for me," sort of thing. I don't know. I should have
Hmm.
been an engineer. Engineering is better. If I had it all over again, I would be a dentist.
Oh,
I'll,
why'd you
I'll
say
tell you
that?
why. Because you can work for yourself, and it takes a lot of money to establish your dental practice. But I think it's very profitable and you're sort of on a periphery of medicine, chemist, being a chemist and all that, and you're independent. Independence is very important to me.
Hmm.
But doctors are dime a dozen. Um, in terms of engineering, if I had it all over again, I wouldn't do, for example, um, civil engineering. It depends on the markets when there's a building and so forth. I wouldn't do um, aeronautical engineering because there are certain industries, like in Britain, there's aeronautical engineering, maybe America, not Australia. So
Hmm.
um, those sort of professions are not my cup of tea. As I see something in computers, I think computers. I think that's the future. I think,
Hmm.
but it's too late for me anyway.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you have time, Jim, to give us a brief so tell us about what's happening in politics in Australia at the
well,
moment?
well, Anthony Albanese is an old boy of my school. I think I've told you before.
Yes, you don't like him, and he's a bit
No,
of
no.
a.
Well, he went to St Mary's Cathedral here in Sydney. It's a Christian
Mhm,
Brothers Irish school.
mhm,
Um, it was an all boys school about to turn co-ed.
mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
Anyway, we just had our reunion, old boys, and we cordially invited Anthony to come to our reunion. And we've got a response, thanks, but no thanks, I'm busy, from his office, of course.
Mhm,
Um, but I'll tell you what the situation with him is. I understand he was um, he's of Italian extraction. His mum was a very devout Catholic, and she went in 1959, 60 to Europe, to Italy, and
mhm.
she got pregnant, and and
Oh.
yeah, and that's not open. It's not a secret. I'm not divulging
Mhm,
anything. And being a devout Catholic, she came back to Australia, and as I understand, she Obviously, abortion was out of the question, and Anthony was born, and he lived in housing commission. I think you call it um, government
Council,
council, yeah,
council house, yes.
whatever. And
Mhm,
it's in a camper down here, very close to centre of Sydney, where he lived, and he got a scholarship, as I understand, because I went to it's a private school, a very expensive Catholic school, and but the Christian Brothers gave scholarship to the destitute or not financially able to afford the fees and uniforms and all that. So that's how he got in, not in on his intellectual abilities. He was an average student, and
mhm,
he studied economics at Sydney University, but he always visited Sussex Street. Sussex Street is not far away from. It's about 2 mile walk from centre this high school, St Mary's Cathedral, and his mentors were trade unions. Sussex Street's got all the trade unions right next to Chinatown here in Sydney.
mhm.
And one of his mentors was Jack Mundy, one of many mentors. He's one of the. It's all in
Who
his
was he?
biography, but I know Jack
Mhm.
Mundy was a Marxist, an Aussie Marxist.
Oh.
He was a true Marxist, and but I like Jack Mundy because part of the heritage of Sydney, next to the Harbour Bridge, opposite Opera House,
Mhm,
it's called the Rocks, was saved. I'm talking about 35, 40 years ago by Jack Mundy and trade unionists. So I take his hat to him. He lived in a place called Balmain, which is not far away from the centre of Sydney. It used to be a very not a now it's gentrified part of Sydney, of course, but it
mhm.
used to be a lower working class. He was a, a, a worker, but a Marxist, genuine person. That's what I fully respect him. He saved part of history and heritage of Sydney, and Anthony became um, how would I say a lefty socialist, communist, Marxist.
Oh, you actually you knew him, you spoke to
Yeah,
him.
he was in my school. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, in your class even?
No, no, no. He was in my brother's class. My brother's
Okay.
young. My brother's a barrister, but don't worry about that.
Mhm,
Another
mhm,
story for another day. But anyway,
mhm,
he knew. I didn't know him personally that well. I mean, he was a younger few years, I think 3 or 4 years behind me. He was.
mhm,
I was in say fifth form. I think he was in second form, something like that.
mhm,
He wasn't a bright boy. He was an average student. And
mhm.
Brother Bradstreet told him, go and study economics. So at the age of about 17, he was an activist, very much, um, an activist, sort of a student, young man. And he
Mhm.
rejected Catholicism. He became, um, you know,
A
a,
commie.
a commie, yeah.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I can't pray in his private life. He continued thus far. And his nickname was Anthony, not Albanese, which is Italian, as Anthony Albasleazy. There you are.
Yes, I remember you telling me last time.
Anthony Albasleazy. So he was a bit of a sleaze bag, but that's all right. He's a politician after all. That's forgiven. Uh, but yeah, but I don't like his politics, what he's doing with Australia at the moment. But anyway, that's my personal and private
Why do you
opinion.
have so many prime ministers? They're like queues outside a public convenience. I've
Mm.
lost count. Um,
Uh,
haven't you? I mean, it's not good for them because we don't even know who they are because they don't stay very long.
well,
I mean, we had that Liz Truss who was only there for 44 days.
yeah, I know that. I don't know what happened to her. She wasn't good enough or whatever.
No, because
Didn't,
I remember laughing at the
but
Australians. It's like,
yeah,
who's the Australian Prime Minister this week then?
yeah,
And nobody's quite
but
sure.
but but he's well, so one of the things he went to Sydney University and he went to did Bachelor of Economics, and Sydney University is known as for his radical left wing economics, not Keynesian economics or or Austrian school economics. It's known for Marxist economics. So,
Mhm.
he knows all about bourgeoisie and the class struggle of the 18th, 19th century and capitalism and the exploited class and lumpen proletariat and all these things, buzzwords of the left. And he was asked a question before he became a prime minister about very pertinent economic question about the budget, and he couldn't answer it. I laughed. I laughed. There he's Bachelor of Economics, and he can't answer an economic question, which I find
Yes.
hilarious.
Do you remember the story of David Cameron being asked to multiply 7 by 6?
No, I don't.
And
I don't.
he refused to do it.
uh,
And he
356.
didn't know what Magna Carta meant.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I'm sure you'll be able to find references to
10
that.
was it 1056 Magna Carta? Yeah.
No,
Was
no,
it
what it
11?
meant, what it meant.
He didn't know the importance of Magna Carta. You're
No,
kidding me.
what it meant in English.
Magnum means big, Carta means charter.
Yes.
Magnum,
It,
magnum.
it was something
Great
basic like that.
contract, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he's very good at bullshitting because he got his Oxford degree in PPE, politics, philosophy, and economics. It does
Yeah,
make him
I've
very
heard of.
good at bullshitting.
Yeah, that's all they are. But these are the puppets, I think. I mean, that before politicians used to be accountable from your district. They're no longer so. Once they enter the politics, they're into big corporate money, sponsorship.
But
But
Jim,
this is what's wrong with American politics. It's all this lobbying. APAC controls American foreign policy. Strange thing. Imagine there's a new prime minister, first female Jewish prime minister of Mexico. Do you know her history?
she's a leftist.
Yeah, why? Why is she all of a sudden a Jewish leftist in Mexico, of all places, a
You
Catholic
know,
country?
I
What
don't
do you
think
you know why is she there?
why.
Who got
Climate change.
who,
She's
who,
a climate.
no, 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 no. That's no. Why is she born in Mexico of all places? Mexican.
Well, they're all
Why?
over the place, these Jews.
No. Who got murdered in Mexico?
Plenty of people.
Trotsky. Remember Trotsky?
Oh, him.
And guess who's best friends of Trotsky? Her father.
Oh, that's interesting.
Ah, there's only about 0.002% of Mexicans are
Well,
Jewish. There you
uh,
are. She's a Trotskyite.
well, I don't think it's fair to blame Jews for being
No,
interested
no,
in
no, no,
politics.
but it's fine. But what I'm saying now, you got a open border person in Mexico. You got Mallorca and Blinken. And let's not mention what their politics. We all know where they're from. Dual citizenships. How is how are you going to resolve the open borders issue between Mexico and United States when you got both sides uh,
No,
thinking in neo?
it's deliberate, isn't it? Because
I'm not
if
saying it's deliberate, accidental, whatever. I'm not. I'm not.
no, but it's the
Uh,
same everywhere. You have a
mm,
problem with immigration, right? You
mm.
don't under, they're all coming to Australia, all going to New
Well,
Zealand because
stop.
you're part of the
Well, why are
European
we coming?
Economic
Well,
Zone of the
can't
Anglo-Saxon
I,
Empire.
as a white European, say enough is enough? This is my country. Why can't Europe,
Because
England,
it's not
France,
your
and
country,
say
but you
and
are
say
part of, you are an economic zone
no,
of the
no?
American
Why?
Empire.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then you got to ask your question: who's behind this policy, which I've never voted for? And both parties of the whole political spectrum, from the far right, liberal, Greens, Labour, Conservatives, as you call them. What do they call it in England?
Well, you
Tories.
call it the Liberal Party.
Yeah, Tories.
I'm
They're
so
all the
glad you
same.
mentioned
They're all
your
the
Liberal
fucking
Party is
same.
our Conservative Party,
But
right?
they're all the same. My point being, they're all the same in terms of immigration. Shouldn't
Yes,
a
because we
country?
all have, because transnational progressivism is actually, you've heard of the expression. Some academic at the Hudson Institute talked about it. It's sort of being gay and being cosmopolitans and moving around and either as rich people or as poor people, because of the ease of transport and
My
ease of
point being, not
communication.
being sound, I know it's probably politically incorrect, is that every person should have a say in their own affairs, internal affairs.
But
Like
only if they
Africans,
are a
like
sovereign
Africans, like
country.
like like
America is
Chinese.
not a sovereign country, as neither is Britain.
But it's not a sovereign country. I would have a debate on that point.
Well, I mean,
No,
that's
well,
why the
you
American
can't blame the
electoral vote.
Americans for everything. Is American? I know we are appendage or colony or whatever you want to call it of
Hmm.
of the of the global homos. But
Hmm.
anyway, uh, 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 to what extent? Let's not pretend. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's not beat about the bush and ignore the elephant in the room. If we want to be honest to ourselves and to whomever we're trying to convey our message.
Well, the message is okay. The American people are the most important people in the world because they are going to be voting for their next president, and it may not make any difference if Trump is just going to carry on bombing the Gazans and encouraging the Jews to do so.
Well, yeah,
So
well,
we have to actually question the moral basis of democracy itself,
look,
because
I'm anti-democratic. I'm not democrat.
democracy
I'm not.
affects
I am.
individuals.
I am not for this democracy. This democracy is a scam.
Exactly. So we want a different
What's the
kind of government.
alternative? So what's the alternative? If I say this is all bullshit, which is so
I,
again, the
have
only
you tried
democracy I've
the
seen,
party
what I
system
studied,
in China?
I think, is the Athenian democracy, where you had a forum of men, only men over 25 years of age. Hold on, 20, not only being men, not LGBTQ, but having a family, i.e., married, and having land outside the polis state. They
Well,
toiled the
they
land.
need
So they had a stake in what has been determined.
no, but
But
Jim,
not everyone. So it's not an absolute democracy. Now they're lowering the age from 21 to 18, from
they
18 to
want more
16.
stupid people to vote. That's what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
they want the
okay,
immigrants and
I'm not a
everybody.
Democrat.
Immigrants. Oh, that's another laugh. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as they come in, they can vote to
Yeah, I know that. I know all that. Yeah.
So we have to be less shy of questioning the basis of democracy itself. And since you talk about direct democracy in Athens, we have to remember that their democracy did not prevent them from destroying themselves. The Athenians voting for war after war after war with the Spartans, the Peloponnesian War,
Mm.
remember? And
They did not.
the Greeks
They did not.
destroyed themselves,
Exactly. They did not
and
consider
then Rome took
themselves
over.
Greeks. So we told Greek civilization. They did not consider themselves Greeks. They identified with their ethnicity and their polis state. This
Yes,
is a
so the
mistake.
Spartans, although
Mm,
The Spartans and the Athenians spoke Greek and all that, and maybe
mm.
even worshipped the same god,
Mm.
they had a different political
They went
system.
to
Maybe
Delphi and
the
all that.
lady
Yeah,
knew
I
that.
know. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So in the end, it didn't help them, and also this direct democracy that you're praising,
Well, it's
it
just
didn't
a
stop
brief
the
period.
Athenians
Well, you
from
can read it
voting for war.
you can read it in Thucydides' Peloponnesian Wars. I think he talks about various the war with the
Yeah, they kept voting
Persians
for
and all
war.
that. But anyway,
They were afraid
well,
to
well,
not vote for
but
war because there was no secret ballot at the time,
yeah, could
was
I
there?
say something? But this is the nature of our society. I think we are not designed to kill. Do you understand? But the nature of man, um, the pre-Christian man, I would say, is war. And what has the genius of Christianity, not to pacify humanity, but to bring some sort of order, hierarchical order in semblance of having God, not gods, but God, and having some sort of civilization. And this is where everything flourished from Catholicism, from European Catholicism. Look, I won't go in there. I will just show you an example. China had gunpowder, and they used it. They used it for celebration of their various festivals. When a European called Marco Polo introduced gunpowder in the 11th century, guess what the Europeans made from gunpowder? Cannons and guns.
Yes, but the
And
the
I
Europeans
always
are
use
the
I
most
always use the
warlike
example.
people in the
The
world.
advanced Chinese civilization, much older than European civilization, couldn't have fork and a knife and a spoon. They use fucking chopsticks. I'm sorry. It's not progression. If you want to feed yourself, you got a spoon and a knife, and you feed your soup or meat or whatever you're eating, even including rice. Not two little chopsticks.
Well, they haven't starved to death.
But I'm not being critical. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, I mean, it takes certain imagination. And where does that imagination, that IQ, come from? And our world, our present, which I alluded to before, it is Christian slash Catholic European, not African, not Islam, not South American or North American or anybody which we live in, for good or for bad. Electricity, computers,
But
as we are talking to. So everything. Let's, and it is. I hope you don't suffer from cognitive dissonance. It is the truth. And you've got to admit, I take my hat for them, whether they're stupid or self-destructive, not marrying, and I agree with all of those things. And that's the
well,
beauty. And
I
I'm
think
lamenting.
the most
I'm
important
lamenting.
thing.
I'm saying, my rest in peace, my poor pre-Vatican II Catholic Church, Latin Catholic Church, that beautiful language. You know why I love Latin? Because
Hmm.
Satan hates it. Think about it. Anyway, I've said enough of it. I'm keeping you over.
No, 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 no. That's fine. I actually had a bit more to say about, yes, the beauty of the Catholic Church and how they
Again, I'm
put on a
praising it.
good
It's my.
show.
I'm not apologetic. I'm very highly critical, but again, in my own way, in my own humble way, I think I'm being level-headed. I'm not trying to be, I'm the best. I got the longest dick. All that.
Well, I have to say, in the dissident right, Michael Jones, who's
Yeah.
well known for being Catholic, is well the most accomplished intellectual of the
Well, well,
dissident right, wouldn't you
well,
say?
well, I know him. All right.
You
Do you
you,
want to?
you
Yes, I do know him. I know Kevin McDonald quite well. Yeah.
mhm.
Have you heard of Tom Sunick, Doctor
Yes,
Tom
I
Sunick?
actually spoke to him.
Oh, he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, right. Well, I've spoken to Michael Jones. I mean, I think Jews are afraid of Michael Jones.
Yeah, but he's arguing from a theological point of view, but they categorize him as some sort of what they do. I mean, it's very simple. It's first of all, you're ignored. You're a persona non grata, non-existent, and then if you become very sort of popular or whatever, then let's dox him and all this crap. And if that doesn't work, let's demonize him. And then the ultimate aim is let's bury him.
Well,
Let's call him a
he
opposite, a
goes well,
Nazi, a fascist. What's the other buzzwords they go around? I mean, there's so many of them. And,
Nazi, racist, misogynist,
and so whatever, yeah, all
yeah,
those, all the above, yeah.
conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. It goes on and on and on. And well, what do? You just laugh at it. You just yeah, sure
Well,
thing.
I mean, it would be nice if somebody had a solution that is viable and respectable.
Uh,
And
so the problem they got with Kevin McDonald, good old Kevin from Oregon, what the problem they've had with him is a evolutionary psychologist, ex-professor from Cal State University.
And he says, that, Jews have a better. He's basically saying Jews have
Evolutionary
better Jews than
psychology,
their Christians. That's what
yeah,
he's saying, isn't he,
mm,
Jim? That's what
and
Kevin
and
McDonald's
and
saying.
Coughness, that Coughness
Yes,
trying to
Nathan
refute.
Coppers.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
he's trying to.
he's in a bit of trouble now, isn't he?
I don't know. I'm not. I'm too busy. I don't know what's happening lately. What's going
I
on?
think he's been accused of. I can't even remember what it was. It's a nothing burger as far as I can see. But E. Michael Jones has been the most enduring one so far, and
Hmm.
and and he keeps writing books. He's very active.
Yeah, I've
Um,
got most of his books. I've got 'em.
I'd
Yeah.
like to know what you think of him.
Well, he's. Well, we sort of. Yeah, I agree with most of him. He's approaching the J question with from a perspective of Catholicism or Christianity. Is I agree with 80% of not, I won't say 90, 85% of what he's saying in terms of his perception. But again, he's persona non grata. Once you're categorized as evil, as whatever.
Do you remember him telling Jared Taylor, who
Mm,
was the one who's
yeah,
always the one going on about low IQ blacks and
yeah,
race,
and all that,
and
yeah.
he and it was a kind of race versus religion kind of thing, and
Mm,
E. Michael Jones said, "Look, um, white nationalists have no rights at all, but
mm,
we Catholics still have some rights. So
mm.
be Catholic like me." That was basically what he was saying to Jared Taylor.
Yeah, correct. Well, Jared is based everything on race, and while uh, E. Michael Jones is basing everything on theology, Catholicism, which means international. Whether you're black, white, tall, short, old, African, South American, whatever color thumpian, if you're a Catholic, you're a Catholic, and I tend to agree. This it's a universal um, religion which like Islam has to preach the word of God, as we believe Catholics, as Muslims also believe, uh, and it has stopped since Vatican II. Our Pope is now saying, "Oh, let's all religions are equal." Well, yeah, the way to God, as we interpret pre-Vatican II, is through our belief. That doesn't mean we should get a sword and slaughter everyone else who does not believe. We should convert them. Conversion is usually by example rather than with a sword or a gun. You got to
Well, you
convert.
should believe and obey. I suppose that's common of all
So,
religions. But I have this little theory about E. Michael Jones. I don't think he's even out to get the Jews. What he can't
no, no, he's not. Exactly, I agree. He's not.
he what he really wants to do is say, if I were Pope, and then you say, oh, but I would never be, foolish as to, imagine myself in in this way, even though Michael Voris might be doing things like that, but but
Well, what happened to
he
that
can't
Michael
get
Voris?
him.
He's a homosexual, isn't he, or
Yes,
something?
yes, Michael Jones
Yeah,
is always
yeah,
denouncing him for
something.
his
Yeah, I was.
narcissism,
Yeah,
but Michael Boris, I suppose I found him quite entertaining because he was
yeah,
always
yeah.
angry. But
Vortex. That's right.
yes, yes, Michael Voris of the Vortex and this twisty
Yeah.
pencil thing. But I think Michael Jones is really using the Jews as a way of having a go at the Protestants because his thing is like, see, look what you Protestants allowed since you won the wars of the Reformation. You were wrong, and if I were Pope, yes, I would
Yeah,
forcibly
I could see that.
convert the Jews to Catholicism, but they're not the only ones I'm going to forcibly convert to Catholicism. The Protestants had better watch out. I think that's his thing.
Yeah, I can see that parallel. Yeah, Yeah. In retrospect, I think you got a really good point there. Oh, I love that. It's very entertaining, and I think he's very very logical. I've got his the Revolutionary Spirit and all the other books on usury and all that. Yeah.
Yes, he's written a one about aesthetics, but I have to
Yeah.
recommend this video he did with Gemma O'Doherty.
Right.
He was on this cruise in the Adriatic, and Gemma was just sitting very close to him in this pretty frock, and he was going on about.
Is this
Oh my
recent?
gosh,
Is
it
it?
was
Is
so
it
funny. It's on
recent?
BitChute. I'll send you the link
Oh,
later.
please, yes.
Yeah.
If I have time, I'll have a look at it. I'm simply too busy at the moment,
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't best of health either. I had
Oh,
some
I'm sorry to hear
problems.
that. You must
Yeah.
take it easy with the drinking and the red wine.
Well, it's sort of a holiday here in Sydney.
Oh,
Tomorrow's the
right.
working day, and
Uh-huh.
let's see how we pan out. All right.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Look,
All right. Thank you for
uh, uh,
coming. It's been
yeah,
lovely
we
to
should
talk to you.
have catch up
Do this more regularly,
more
perhaps.
regularly. Make it on some sort of a regular basis, and
Any day that you prefer?
let's expand your views, your channel.
Okay.
All right,
Have you
I'm all for it.
any day that that is better for you than another day?
Well, just send me a link. I can't because, again, I've used a diary,
Hmm.
and there are certain things like for
Okay.
example, tomorrow I got directions hearing in the
Hmm.
Supreme Court, and then on on Thursday. But a lot of people come, and they've got various problems, and I'm a sole practitioner, so I work for myself. So
Hmm.
I can't be doxxed. I mean,
All right.
I don't work for the corporations, all right? So,
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
free spirit, as they say, and I think I've, at least, I mean, in terms of free speech, what's happening, I can tell you, again, I don't want to be sort of a doomsayer. It is awful in terms of human rights and our, and this is where Tom Sunny comes into it. Um, he's got a take uh, as a former professor in California and former, I think, ambassador, Croatian ambassador to France and Denmark, I think. But he's
Hmm.
very fluent. One of the greatest intellectuals minds I've met. He speaks fluent English, French, German, and French, German, Croatian, I think. And what's the other language? I think Latin. And
Hmm.
so very, it's so articulate, um, which I find. But I've got a group of people here in Sydney. There's about uh, conservatives, about 40 of us, all professors, former professors, law, various intellectuals. And one of them
Hmm.
is you mentioned Russell Kirk.
Hmm.
Uh, he he's just finished his PhD. If I can get, I will. Uh, uh, if you want to read his thesis, which will be published in a book, Mr. His name is Luke,
Hmm.
Dr. Luke. Uh, anyway, I will send it to you. You can read
Oh,
it.
yes,
I
yes,
haven't read it.
that rings a bell.
Hmm.
Hmm.
He's
Well, I
he's
posted the link anyway in the private
yeah.
chat in case you're interested with E.
All
Michael
right.
Jones.
Oh, I've
Timestamped.
got something here. Good on you. Look, thank you very much. We had a bit of a yarn, and I hope to catch up with you occasionally. Okay, just
Yes,
give me a
yes, that
link.
would be
And
good.
I can't give you a sort of itinerary because I'm in and out all the time. Uh, my wife
Oh,
works.
okay. Well, we'll send me an email when you fancy a chat, and
Good
we
on
can
you.
do it that
What
way.
have you sent? You sent me a um Gemma.
It's a
Oh, you
timestamp post about of E. Michael Jones talking to Gemma O'Doherty
and he
in the
that's
Adriatic.
the That's the recent visit
Yes,
he
but
had.
the one I thought was so good. Mhm.
Oh, great. I will do that. All right.
All right. Thank
All
you,
the best.
Jim. All the
Okay.
very best. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend.
Well,
Okay.
it's 6:41 p.m. here, and it's
Okay.
winter in Sydney.
Yes, I can tell by the way you're dressed.
Winter. All right.
Okay.
Take it easy. All the best. All right.
Thank
Okay.
you. Take care.
Nice
Bye,
talking to you. See
Jim.
you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.